Hello everyone, it's Becky here from Ivy's Corner. I'm back for day number 24 of Inktober Tangles 2025. I can't believe we're already on day 24. That's gone so fast so far. Today's pattern is a really fun one and one that I'd seen before Inktober Tangles, but I hadn't actually ever practiced or attempted, so I'm excited to bring it to you today. Today's pattern is called Letterish by Jody Genovese, and she has stepped out this really fun tangle. It's quite bold, it looks kind of quirky, but it's a really fun one to add to your patterns and to your tangle library. So we're going to dive straight in, and I am going to pick up my pen and I'm going to start by drawing. I'm adapting the step out very slightly here because I feel like in Jodie's original step out, she kind of begins with like a column that we're going to fill with letters or letterish forms. And you can create actual letters if you want to, but I'm trying to avoid making anything look too representational. So it's just kind of having the idea of letter forms. And I also feel like a lot of our patterns that we've drawn so far in Inktober Tangles are starting in this kind of column or ribbon format. So I'm going to do something slightly different just to mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to start off by drawing some kind of horizontal lines that are fairly random, like so. I don't want them to be too short. They're kind of a little collection of horizontal lines like so. And then I'm going to join some of them together in... So basically I've drawn horizontally that way, and now I'm going to draw vertically in between these lines in a sort of a random way. You can also join the edges if you want to, but you don't have to. And you can kind of just play it by ear. So we're creating this kind of random stack of shapes, I suppose, like this. And these random kind of lines are going to help us to form our letterish shapes. So once we've done that, we're going to start to add some inky spaces into some of these shapes that we've got here. And there's a few different ways you can do that. You can bear in mind that some of these are going to end up looking like letters. So if you don't want to spell out words, then you want to try and avoid making them look too letterish, or at least consider what shape letter they might make. But we're going to just draw some shapes really in some of these, in all of these spaces. So I've drawn an orb and this kind of long, thin, sausagey shape. I'm going to do one here where I come off of the side and create like a little large, like a fescue with a large kind of orb on the end. I'm going to do this one where I create this one that comes in, and then another one that has this shape coming off that side. And you can see how that one is starting to look like an S. This one's maybe going to look a bit like a B. You can kind of play it by ear and see what you think things are going to look like. So I'm going to do two orbs here, and then I'm going to just do one long one in the middle like that. And you can, just play it by ear really. And we're creating these kind of interesting odd shapes within our spaces. And I'm going to do 3 because that isn't actually like any particular letter really. So there we go. We've got a little collection here of kind of shapes within shapes. And now what we're going to do is ink those in. So I'm going to go through and just add ink to all of these shapes that I've created. Ones that are both in the centre of our initial shapes and some that are attached to the edges. And you can really start to see how this is forming these letterish shapes, which is where this tangle gets its name from. Adding those inky spaces and creating that depth. And once we've done that, we're going to start adding some rounding to each of these shapes. So really coming back to the shapes that we created in the first stage and rounding off the corners. So I'm going to round off the corners and ink them in each of these different shapes. And you can see how this one kind of looks like a B, but is it a B? And that's kind of where this ish element comes from here. The letterish feeling of how these come together. And just rounding and curving off these edges and these corners. It starts to kind of make it look almost like a bubble lettering. And there's absolutely no reason that you couldn't kind of plan out if you wanted something to actually spell a word. You could certainly plan to do that and incorporate that into your design. I haven't thought too hard about it, so I'm hoping that I haven't accidentally spelt anything. But I think some of them aren't necessarily even supposed to be letters. They are letterish, and they might look a bit like letter forms, but not actually be true letters. But it's a fun one to play with because you do kind of come out with some unexpected results, for sure. So I'm just curving around some of these. And you can see how it really does kind of transform it, actually. It's a fun one. So we're almost there with the rounding. Now when it comes to shading this pattern, I mean, there's not necessarily an obvious place to start with shading. So we'll have a little think about how we're going to do that. I haven't really thought about it before now. There we go. So we've kind of got these cool shapes. And I'm going to, I mean, one thing you can do is sort of shade the bottom of each of the kind of the layers that we drew along these horizontal lines that we first drew. I think you can probably, let's do that. We'll add some to the bottom of each of these. And then any of the bottoms here of like the inky spaces. So we'll add some all along this bottom line here, and then just a touch underneath some of these inky spaces that we added to the centre. Like so. We don't really think about a light source in Zentangle, but sometimes it helps to kind of maybe think about it because it gives us a bit of an answer about where to put the shading if we're looking for one. My paper, as it has been for all of these videos, is extremely delicate, and so I'm just having to be really, really subtle with my shading and not manipulate the fibres of this paper too much because they are moving around, as you can see. But this is a really fun pattern, and it was one that I didn't think I was going to like that much until I actually had a go at it, and then I did really enjoy creating these really fun letterish shapes. So we are on day 24 now. Whoops. Day 24, Letterish by Jody Genovese CCT, and that is your day 24 pattern. I hope you enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 25. We are almost at the end of Inktober Tangles now, and I can't wait to see what you're creating throughout all of these lovely patterns and lessons. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Even after Inktober, I shall be back to posting my usual content, but thank you so much for following, and I will see you next time.